Our focus is COTI V2, which is a privacy-centric Ethereum layer 2. So it got us curious and we got into research about the importance of privacy.
Kind of just break this down. What is this technology and how does it enhance privacy?
It will be visible that my address has done a transaction with your address. So we're not trying to hide ourselves. But the content of the transaction will not be visible to the general public.
Let's take the next 1 year. What is it that mostly excites you?
I think I know what will happen in the next 10 years.
Shahaf, once again, hello. It's the second time on our podcast with you. I honestly don't remember when the first one was, but I think it was at least a year and a half ago, and things have changed quite a bit since then. So hi to you.
Hi, thank you for having me here again. Yes, I think it was even more than that, and everything changes, everything evolves.
For sure, for sure. I will check it, by the way, right now. When was our last recording? And in the meantime, can you let us know how have you guys been? How is Scotty doing? And what are you guys, generally up to these days?
Sure. So, COTI always builds. That was our motto since 2018. The last year and a half, as you mentioned, we've been focused around our network's new version, COTI V2, as we call it. In the future, it will just be COTI, of course, which is a privacy.
Ago, by the way. Excuse me for interrupting, but exactly 2 years ago, yeah.
2 years ago, yeah. Yes, that makes sense. So it's a good timing, actually, to meet us again.
Yeah.
So our focus is COTI V2, which is a privacy-centric Ethereum layer 2, meaning we are bringing privacy to Ethereum networks, and will probably be the first to launch a mainnet by the year's end.
That's a big step, obviously. Can you perhaps walk us through the thought process of why did you guys decide to go this way, and why do you think privacy is important, not just for COTI, but for the global crypto ecosystem in general?
Yeah, so I think privacy is important because privacy will dictate the future of the internet. Nothing less than that, and I will explain this. We got into the rabbit hole of privacy because, being enterprise focused, we heard quite often from institutions that they can't really go on a public blockchain unless they can solve privacy. When we were talking about payments, it was always clear that there needs to be privacy because people don't want everybody to see their payment history. So it got us curious and we got into research about the importance of privacy. And I would tell you this, think about the future of the internet, because there are two versions of that future. In one version, it stays as it is. A few big companies control everything, all the popular apps, all the data, the profile, everything. And they dictate what's right, what's wrong, who's platformed, who's not. And that's one possible future. The second future is a decentralized future. I think the internet from the get-go, that was the idea behind it. This is why, the protocols, the original protocols of the internet are still decentralized. Even things like email are decentralized. DNS is decentralized. Yeah. And in this future, users, you and I, own our data, own our identity, own our tokens. We own everything. And we interact with services that are built in a decentralized manner, right? And it means that it doesn't just mean that there will be a lot more competition about building better services, which is lacking right now. Nobody, it's very difficult to build a new social network right now, or new search engine, right? A new e-commerce.
Sure.
But just imagine that it's borderline insane. But in this future, in a decentralized future, yes, this will become possible. The trade-off, however, is that as it is right now, if you're building a decentralized internet on top of blockchain and tokens, when you interact with services, you give away your data. because it's on a public blockchain. So
Right.
not only the data, but also, let's say we transmit encrypted data, the metadata, the information about your data will always be public. So if I'm sending a transaction, it's visible forever. And if at some point I understand, hey, that person is behind this Ethereum address, then I can tell you everything that he's ever done on chain, right?
Right.
Everything that he bought, all the tokens that he owned. And this is a big trade-off. Like, what's worse, not owning our data or having it publicly visible the entire time and not being free because if everybody continuously scrutinize you or just look at everything that you do, then you're not free. It's not
Right.
like you are at home.
Right.
You know? So the best outcome for the internet, and again, this is not just for blockchain, this is not just for DeFi. The best outcome for the internet and communication networks will be a decentralized network that can keep secrets, that can keep your data private. So this is exactly what we're doing with COTI right now, and we're doing that on top of an existing network. So we start very strong in terms of liquidity, community, etc. And we're doing it with a very unique technology that no one has ever employed to solve privacy, but we've already proved it. So I'm very excited about this.
And one of the substantial efforts that you guys have made in that direction was the integration of garbled circuits technology. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think COTI is the first one to do it on blockchain. So can you perhaps kind of just break this down? What is this technology and how does it enhance privacy?
Sure. So garbled circuit technology has been around for probably 90s or so. It was created to solve like an interesting, intellectual problem, mathematical problem of trying to figure out in a neighborhood who's the richest person without him or without anybody actually telling you their net worth, right? So you take all these inputs in a confidential manner, you do some calculation in a confidential manner without needing to decipher it, and you tell them that person is the richest person. Okay. So it was created for that, and but it wasn't very useful to solve blockchain privacy because of performance issues. And along came a bunch of researchers from a company called Soda Labs, a new company, and we helped them fund practical research to how to actually employ this on blockchain. And they did it. And the team there is led by Dr. Avishai Yanai and Dr. Meital Levi, and they've been, they are both obviously PhDs, and their entire life was focused around this through companies like VMware, Starkware, etc. And they've made it, and it's an amazing thing because it takes some novel concepts from things that maybe people are more familiar with, like fully homomorphic encryption, FHE, meaning I can use encrypted data without needing to decipher it, which is a huge thing because if you do something on chain and if at any point you decipher it on chain, then everybody can see it, right? So you actually need to keep the data encrypted. So FHE can do that, but with a lot of performance issues and at high expensive costs. So garbled circuits can actually do the same thing at a much better, like at 1,000x performance improvement at a fraction of the cost, because the circuit is actually something that kind of like encompasses everything, and you can use the same sort of encryption that you've used earlier through a garbled circuit and actually never decipher the content and actually make it very useful and at great performance, as I've mentioned that. And that is absolutely critical for blockchains. We don't need added latency for blockchains.
It's actually very interesting now that I think back on what you said about the two different futures of the internet. The second one sounds really Orwellian, like everything is someone has the capacity to know everything about you, whether you want it
Yeah.
or not. And
Yeah.
it kind of goes against some of the principles of, you know, certain blockchain narratives that there should be transparency, but like as in all things, I guess there should be some limits to this transparency, right?
Yes. When people, and I hear that a lot, but when people talk about transparency, they actually refer to fairness, right? Which is absolutely right. And you get that from blockchain because it's immutable and because no one can change the rules.
Yeah.
But I don't think they mean transparency in a sense of, hey, I want to be able to see exactly what you buy online,
Complete
exactly who you
visibility.
vote to. Yes, that's not transparent. That's actually intrusiveness, right? It's obviously wasn't written by us, but I like the banner of privacy is normal. Privacy is for everyday people. Privacy is why we have shower curtains, right? It's a basic human right. It's protected by law, and this actually allows things to flourish, and it actually allows enterprises and institutions to get involved with crypto because it's just illegal for them to actually show exactly what they do for their clients. So this is why this is so important. I think otherwise we're either being in a dystopian Orwellian future, where a few companies, which will be the same companies that control AI, by the way, have all the power. And we've all seen these movies, right? Or in a future where, and by the way, it's in many ways it's irreversible. At this point, there's a lot of data on chain, from many years. That is already there. That cannot be confidential again. So everything that has happened so far on blockchain, you need to assume that at one point or the other, it will be very easy to say that address belongs to that person.
Right.
Maybe not right now, though. Even though if you hire specific companies, they could probably tell you after a while, we've realized that this address belongs to that person. Take some research, but they could potentially do that, right? At some point in the future, it will be so easy that people will just look back and will just tell you, hey, this is crypto, since, I don't know, 2015 to 2025, this is everything that has happened with everybody, right? So you should know that by now. We need to kind of like fix this so people from the future will not be able to see everything that we've done now.
Yeah, and actually the technology is already there, right? There are teams working on clustering information and like categorizing it in a way where it's really easy to see which address interacted with which protocol, provided liquidity here and there and whatnot. So yeah.
Yes. Plus, if you have like a big wallet, if you're a whale, then you become a target, right?
Right. They're tracing you, seeing where you put your money in.
Yeah. For governments, it's obviously very easy. Just think about, Silk Road and Ross being arrested. It's not anonymity, or it's not even confidentiality. It's pseudo anonymity because it's just a nickname that you have. But people, it's not very difficult to find out who's behind the nickname when everything is immutable. So that's the future there. And if you want everything to be decentralized on a public blockchain, which is transparent and is fair, we just need to figure out how we allow for what we call in COTI a selective disclosure, meaning I can decide what I want to show to who. And don't be confused, this is not illegal or against regulation. This is actually the law. And then we have a much better future.
I think at this point, we need to make an important differentiation because in the current regulatory landscape, we've seen regulators and law enforcement clamp down on certain networks like Monero, XMR was delisted from pretty much every exchange, and
Yes.
we saw what happened with Tornado Cash. So can you perhaps speak a little bit about the difference between a privacy-oriented network and a privacy coin?
Sure. So the word privacy obviously is used quite widely. What we do in COTI is considered confidentiality computing, and what Monero or Mixer can do is what is considered anonymity. So what's the difference? There's a big difference. When you do an anonymous transaction, it means that, let's say let's say I'm doing a transaction with you, right? And I'm sending you a few tokens. Anonymity means that this transaction can be visible, but nobody knows who you are or who I am, like forever. It's completely obscured. This is illegal because it means that we can do money laundering, we can finance terror, and this is forever not traceable. And it doesn't protect our privacy, it just hides us, right?
Right.
And if you think about how institutions are built today or how normal transactions are built today, right? Let's say I'm buying something in Amazon. So Amazon knows who I am. The bank knows who I am. I know who Amazon is, and I can show the trace. But nobody can see the transaction itself. This is Web 2. And this is good. Confidentiality means that it will be visible that my address has done a transaction with your address. So we're not trying to hide ourselves. But the content of the transaction will not be visible to the general public. It will be visible to exactly who we decide we want to show this transaction to. And if need be, we can show it to a regulator. You and I, not COTI.
Right.
Or if a specific DApp or smart contract was built in a certain way, then their terms of conditions can be, this transaction will be visible to these people, right? So that's how confidentiality or selective disclosure is built. And again, this is GDPR, this is HIPAA, this mimics the sort of regulation that we have today. And it's actually, safe and it's good because it doesn't encourage bad behavior, right? It's a misconception that people mostly outside of crypto think about, crypto can be used to, buy all these illegal stuff. And it's probably the worst way to do crime because it's traceable forever, right? So it's probably the worst possible way to do any sort of crime. Anonymity helps that. Confidentiality doesn't help you become a better criminal.
Yeah. So in essence, the parties involved in the transaction, or if they agree to in advance to a certain application, they have the capability to disclose the information.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Shahaf, talk to me a bit about your V2 development roadmap. So how far off are you guys, and what's next?
Sure. So we're moving in a very fast pace, right? We've just introduced the concept early this year, then actually proved goblet circuits on a blockchain. Early this year, in April, we've launched the developer network, which is kind of like an early test net. We've already have about 400 smart contracts that were built on it.
400.
400, yes. And we just recently finished building the testnet, not deploying it, like the advanced testnet. We'll probably be deploying it, in a month or two. Then that should be quite stable and will lead us to mainnet in Q4 this year. So the idea is to have a mainnet, which is a privacy-centric Ethereum layer 2 this year. So it's not just about, by the way, building the privacy features in it. It's also about building a layer 2 and with the way layer 2s are built today with decentralized sequencers and everything that comes with it. And the idea is that it will be very easy for anybody with any experience with EVM Solidity to deploy on top of our network.
Okay. You said you launched the developers network, which is kind of a testnet. Can you kind of expand on this a little bit?
Yeah, so it uses something that is called not EVM but GC EVM. So it's like expansion to EVM. So it's Solidity, but we've added a
GC
few
stands
things.
for garbled circuits, or yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, good. Sorry, yeah, I didn't mention that. So essentially, you're writing in Solidity, but you have a few new operators or parameters. So essentially, you say this number should be confidential, or this data should be confidential. So you're using the same Solidity with a few expansions. So this is already possible. This playground is possible. We have SDKs and Gitbooks and everything that you need to get going. And I encourage people to try and build a few things. The use cases are endless, and we can discuss a few. But it's there, and people can actually start writing right now how they wanted their DApp to kind of like work in the future. Testnet will change a few things in the backend, but it's the same GC VM, the same Solidity. So for developers, it's pretty natural to progress from developer network to testnet.
You mentioned 400 smart contracts are already being built on the developers network, right? Can you perhaps give us some sort of, because you mentioned use cases, perhaps a walkthrough of some of the more practical use cases?
Yes. So a few things. First, identity and dynamic identity. So the problem with identity solutions that were, let's say the most common thing is KYC, right? IDs, systems, etc. It has a lot of flaws in it. Obviously, you continuously do that for every service that you want to use. You're doing the same KYC, same vendor, same everything. So, and your data, obviously, you send it away. Data silos become honeypots for hackers. It's not the best solution. Step 2 is decentralized identities. So I own my data, and a service can ask me, hey, prove that you are over 18. And I use something like ZK to prove that I'm over 18. So it's a self-sovereign identity solution. It's good. Civic does that, for instance. So with Civic, what we can do with gobbled circuits is something that is called dynamic decentralized ID. There are a few limitations to ZK, which is like you need to know in advance what are the questions that you'll be asked to prepare proofs. Or you can't really build sophisticated things with ZK. Like, are you over 18 and live outside of the US and own a car? You can't really do that. Right. With dynamic ID, you could. So this is something that we are working on with Civic. So solutions around ID. AI. It's borderline meme to say that we live in AI area. It's very clear. How about allowing models to learn from information, but keeping it private? Because this will be a big deal, right? Yeah. And with these sort of solutions, you could actually both generate and monetize and allow models to learn from private information, or do something like federated learning, which is, two companies, two bodies actually use their data to build a model together without ever showing that data to each other, which is very important. DeFi. Confidential DeFi is obviously huge. First of all, it solves the problem of exploitation and manipulation and MEV, because the transactions are private. Then it allows you to build sophisticated trading algorithms without showing them to everybody, because people can't just follow what you do or front run you. It allows you to do lending and borrowing without showing your wallet to the world, right? And we see that all the time, hey, that person just lended so much money, or he might be liquidated. So you don't get that in the real world, right? It's bad finance, right? So So that is something that we see as well around DEXs, etc. Voting. DAOs make votes, and these votes tends to be skewed because there is something inherently bad with everybody seeing how the vote progresses in real time and kind of like, yeah, I think I'll align with the majority or do that. This is not, if you think about how we do, in democratic states, how votes are being done, they are covered, of course, to avoid these sort of skews. So that and many other things like games, right? Games need confidentiality because you can't see the other person's actions before they actually manifest themselves in the game. So all of that and more.
And I also saw that you guys launched the ABC Growth Fund. Is this kind of an initiative to perhaps incentivize people to explore and go into these different price gigs? Can you kind of explain what this growth fund is for? Who is it targeted at?
Sure. So it's a $50 million fund. It's called ABC because it's for ambassadors, builders, and creators, right? So we've launched builders. Builders essentially means that developers and protocols can apply for grants anywhere from $1,000 to $100,000 and receive these grants when they develop on top of our network. And we are dealing with over 50 protocols at various stages of integration. C is creators. So creators is a fund that is dedicated for people that create high impact content and offer distribution for education, videos, etc., translations to make us global. So that's the ABC fund. We haven't launched the ambassador fund yet, but that is also coming.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Shahaf, one last question to you would be, if we take the relatively short-term future in crypto, because I generally want to ask, what are you most excited about in the next 5 years? But 5 years in crypto is like a bazillion years in everything else. So let's take the next 1 year. What is it that mostly excites you?
First, I was talking to someone offering me a fund to invest in today, and he said, our horizon is 2 to 4 years. I said, oh, wow, that's very difficult. Yeah. But I think I know what will happen in the next 10 years. It's pretty, I'm a believer, right? So I think I know what will happen in the next 10 years. I have some confidence about the next 3 months, and everything in between is very difficult to predict. Look, I am very excited about infrastructure and physical infrastructure and blockchain evolving to not be like a siloed thing that is self-serving, right? But something that really shapes up the future of the internet. Like I really hope Web3 is the next generation of the internet and not, meme tokens and self-serving themes.
Yeah, kind of expand into more meaningful horizons, like you mentioned, identity, finance, gaming, and
exactly. Like the way we actually build things in the future. And I think with scalability being pretty much solved and everything that happens around it, I think we can get there. I hope my children will live in a more decentralized future than we have.
What's your take on the whole narrative of onboarding celebrities through meme coins? Because it's been going nuts on Twitter. So
to be honest, like I've never participated in any of that, but I don't think it's a bad thing. I don't think NFTs were bad. I don't think it's a bad thing because it just it's another way to create awareness. It's not the best possible way, but it creates awareness.
Yeah.
So I think it's okay, and I think ETFs for Bitcoin are okay. It's not because it's it was in spaces and it was asked that if isn't ETF of Bitcoin completely against the Bitcoin narrative? And I think not, because I think the same way there's a difference between oil, right, that is used for utility to the market of oil, right? It doesn't jeopardizes the usage of oil when you have an ETF around it, or when you have a market that speculates around it. So ETF for BTC is just one part of the utility of BTC, just tracks the price of Bitcoin. For that sense, it actually leverages that utility. The rest is not there, of course. But is it bad? No, it's not bad at all.
Plus, if you think about it, Bitcoin has always been a tradable asset ever since it started. So people have been trading it. And I think it's safe to say that for over the past 15 or something years, its intended purpose has kind of like shifted for different people. Like, not everyone is buying Bitcoin to transact. I think perhaps the argument is the opposite, that a lot of people are buying it to store their value. So, yeah.
Yes, that's the idea. Yeah, obviously, when people tell me, "Hey, you know what? I think Bitcoin is ridiculous because you can't pay for things with Bitcoin," I'm like, "Are you paying for things with your shares in Google, with Copper? Like, why do you even think that that's the case for it?"
Yeah. Well, Shahaf, it's been a blast, man. Thank you once again for agreeing to do this. Can you tell our audience perhaps where they can find you on social media, you and the COTI's accounts as well?
Yeah. So COTI, it's COTI.io, and COTI Network on Twitter, Telegram, etc. Myself, I'm Shahaf BG, SHAHAF BG, on all social medias and Telegram.